Okay, so I'm going to be giving you guys a Dungeon script tutorial. This is going to be for my Tiny Tools discussion. So this is a very basic program. It just requires a little bit of understanding as to how things work. Other than that, it's pretty easy to pick up. So on this side, this is going to be our script log. On this side over here, the black screen, that's going to be where the actual game pops up. It'd be similar to like a video editor. And then down here, I'll get into these in a second. These are sounds. So they have a bunch of different things that you can use there. So very basic understanding. These, I would not change any of these at all. These are basically like your spine to your entire project. So you have objects, legends, sounds, collision layers, rules, win conditions, and levels. And the cool thing about this game is that you can change these around to make it where, for example, you can't even win the game. It's just like a cool like tech demo essentially. And I'll show you guys one of those here shortly. But this is one of the ones that I brought up here as an example. So they have a bunch of these that you can use. And so this is, it looks very daunting in the beginning, but this is a very basic understanding as to how a game would work. And this is sort of what it would look like, right? So for this one, this obviously it has the title, right? And you can just go in and just change it. So if I just wanted to change this to something else and just say and digital studies. Right, I can do that, and that would be the new game. Same thing with the author, right? This is, right? I can go in and just basically change any of these values, and it will change the game, right? So we'll start off here. So this is the background. So this is the object tab, right? And so this goes all the way down to legend. So basically, the way that this works is if I wanted to make a background, and so the background is going to essentially be the floor. So the way that this would work, right? So you have background, and then you have to give it properties, right? So for this example, right, they used light green and green. And the way that this works is they use a binary so that way you can actually, per block, it will give you the binary code. So right here, you can see it's color coordinated. So this 0 is light green. So 0 is lined up with light green, whereas green is labeled up with the zeros. So let's just go in so we can run this, right? And so this is what it looks like in the beginning, right? So all I need to do is just hit start, right? And then I would just hit the space bar and it goes, right? So this is, as you can see right here, so this is the way that it mirrors the ones and zeros here pretty well, actually. And so this is just a basic understanding. Obviously here, we're gonna move on to the next one. So actually right here, you can see a target, right? So this is the target floor orange, right? So you're giving it where the target is, right? So if I was going to get rid of the floor, right, just do this and run this again, right? It wouldn't line up with the floor. So it's there on the floor, but to give it the specifications to where it wants to be, we're just going to put in floor. So that way it gives it more understanding as to what's going on. And obviously the color. So with this, we'll walk up to this. I wonder if this is actually, this is actually going to work. Kind of. So as you can see here, so this is like, it's very similar to Minecraft, right? So you have a certain width of blocks, and basically they just painted it out right here. So you can see all the zeros are labeled as orange, right? And so it's going to have the outlines. So that way this is put on top of the background, and it gives that little like box shape. So that way it's more, it gives you a more in-depth understanding as to what's going on. So that's how that works. And basically everything in this works very, very similarly to this, right? So walls, right? You have the brown and dark brown. Player, right? So this is where the player comes into play. So that would obviously be in this case. You can do transparent. You can do another color, right? It wouldn't necessarily do too much, but you could do blue. And then if I just run this again, I don't even think it's going to show. But yeah, you really can't see anything right here. So it wouldn't really matter, but transparent is usually what people go with. So So now this is where it gets a little more complicated, right? So you have the crate. Now this right here is the crate, right? So it's this is giving it the commands as to what it's going to do, right? So if I walk over to the crate, hit it, it bounces, right? Now this is a command that is specifically used for that bouncing animation, and it's not very in-depth once you understand what's going on. So voxel and throw, that gives it that like jumping animation. And this right here gives it that This is the actual jumping animation, right? And so because the 0 is red here, the block is red. Very basic understanding. It's a little more difficult to do this if you have no idea sort of what's going on. This is a very basic understanding as to what's going on in comparison to, say, something that I'm going to show you here in a second. The legend, this is your bread and butter, right? So you're going to be your legend for your maps, which are down here, which look very complicated, but in reality, they're not so bad. So right here, you have the background, right? So down here, you have all these little, periods, and that's going to be your floor. You go up here, so wall is the number sign, right? So as you can see here, it lines up. This first one, it lines up right here. So you can see the very basic like T shape, and we have a T shape up here. Crate and player. So the player would start here. Crates would be the asterisk right here. It's a little difficult to see, but basically to give a rundown so this doesn't turn into a like 15, 20-minute video, is you can make these whatever you want. So if I wanted to make the target, say, the number 1, I could go in, and then all I would need to do is change that 0 into a 1, and it would work fine. It would not work for the second one, but let's see. So if I go in here, hit run, start game, right? They're still here, and they are now the number 1. So they would still work. Next thing, so this is where this little bar down here comes into play, right? So essentially what you're doing here is attaching crate to the action of movement, and then it plays this sound, right? So you can go in here, and let's say I wanted a different sound, right? Sure, that works. So this code right here is attached to a sound, and all you want to do is you can just copy it, right? You just delete this, and then put this in here, right? So now every time that I run this, right, now I hit a box, it makes that noise, right? So it's pretty simple. You can just go in here, a lot of different use, right? Yeah. And so collision layers, this is pretty basic. I would just pull this from anybody else's. This is the bread and butter. Essentially what it's saying is the background is more important than the target. So the target is never going to go through the background. And then the player, the wall, and the crate are all below that. So it gives you like a top down as to what can collide and what can't. Rules, once again, this is a very basic one, right? This just basically, if I changed any of this, I would just instantly go through a wall. This is also playing around with the collision layers. So the win conditions, you can change these to however you want, or if I wanted to, I could just completely get rid of this, which I'll show you guys that in a second. But essentially what this is the target on the crate, which is backwards from what we would normally say, but this is the way that it works. It's order of operations. The target on the crate means you win. So if you get all the targets on the crates, then that's how you win it. Once again, you can kind of mess around with this. And a lot of people have very cool level designs. And all you would need to do is just put in a double space here, or a double indentation. No, it'd be space. And that gives you another level. So if you win the first level, you would go down to the second level underneath of that. It sort of just reads it like a regular book. This is a very like convoluted way of doing it. A lot of people just do a box to start off with. But this is the basic understanding of a very surface level introduction. So one of the ones that I found was really cool was this one. And now this one looks a lot more, yeah, it's a lot. But this is, you can even put in messages and stuff like that. And you just need to sort of figure it out. So I'm just going to run this for us, right? And so you can see on here, it's a little bit different already, right? It gives you a message at the beginning, which we can see right up here, right? And this is what it looks like. You actually understand what is going on. And so I guess I'm trying to expand these out to win. Not too sure if that's actually how you're supposed to play it, but yeah, this is a very advanced version. There's a win condition for these, which win condition no whale, which is what they've figured out how to do in this coding right here for the rules. But there's another one here, which is eyeball. So down here, there is no win condition whatsoever, other than there's no way to win against the floating eyeball. And so if I run this, this is just going to be, I guess it doesn't really want to work for me right now. Okay, and that's the eyeball. So the eyeball I get a certain amount of moves before the eyeball starts to like come near me. See, and now he's attached to me, and no matter where I go, whichever way, it just stays with me. And that sound is absolutely horrible. But yeah, this is Dungeon Script. It is a very it's a very basic program, but it also comes with a lot of different ways that you can sort of, move this around and change it to do whatever you want. These are just some of the basic ones you can play around with and work with. And it's very cool. Another one, right? This is another cool one. Random robots. So these robots will just move with you whenever you hit a movement key. And there's no win condition. It's just a, once again, cool. Anyways, I hope this sort of helped you guys out with sort of how this would work. It's once again, like I said, when you understand what's going on, it's really not that difficult, but I hope this helped you out and gives you a little bit of clarity. And I definitely think you should mess around with this. I was playing around with this for probably like 2 hours trying to get this thing to, actually work on mine, but it's a little difficult. But anyways, all right. So you guys, hope this helped.